My name is Melissa Hart. I'm 34, a nurse at a community clinic in Columbus, Ohio. And at this moment, I'm gripping the steering wheel so hard, my palms ache because my husband just leaned in close and whispered, "Turn the car around. Now." 3 kids are scattered across the back seat, tangled in neck pillows and crumbs. The tablet balanced between them, playing cartoons none of us are really listening to. Our youngest, Liam, has a juice box clenched in one fist like it's treasure. Claire, the middle one, is humming under her breath, inventing words to the theme song. And Aaron, the oldest, pretends to ignore them both, eyes on the screen, but lips twitching every time the cartoon character slips on a banana peel. It's the ordinary chaos of a family road trip, the kind that makes you tired but safe. The border sign flashes ahead like a green dare promising potato salad and awkward hugs and the same stories told again and again at the reunion. I glance at Daniel, waiting for the grin, the tease, the joke he almost never makes. But his face is pale, steady eyes locked straight ahead. He looks like a man staring down something only he can see. Why, I ask, my voice thin. "Please," he says, quiet but final. "Just turn." The word please lands heavier than any command. Daniel doesn't rattle easily. I've seen him handle a grease fire in our kitchen with less tension. If he's afraid now, then something is wrong, terribly wrong. My fingers tighten on the wheel. I check the mirrors, half expecting blue lights or a truck bearing down on us. The kids don't notice, still laughing, still whole in their innocence. Liam asked if we'll stop for ice cream after the border, and my throat constricts. I flick the signal and guide the SUV onto the exit ramp. The tires thrum over the grooves, the road curving gently away from Canada and into something I don't yet understand. The coffee in the cup holder trembles with every bump, a metronome for my nerves. Beside me, Daniel exhales, not in relief, but in confirmation, as if some silent countdown has been avoided. He doesn't look at me when he says, "Anywhere but there." That's when suspicion, anger, and love crash together inside me. Whatever waits on the other side of that border, Daniel has decided it's worse than the risk of turning back. I grip the wheel tighter because some choices don't feel like choices at all. They feel like survival already decided for you. The access road narrowed into a strip of cracked pavement no one seemed to have touched in years. I eased the SUV onto the shoulder weeds brushing against the tires, dust rising in the mirrors like ghosts. For a moment, everything was too still. Even the kids' laughter from the tablet in the back seat felt far away, muffled by the pounding of my own heartbeat. Daniel unbuckled his seatbelt with a deliberate click. "Stay here," he said, the weight in his voice leaving no room for argument. He stepped out, shut the door softly, and vanished behind the liftgate. I sat frozen, gripping the wheel so tightly, the leather bit into my palms. The tick of the cooling engine sounded too loud, like a clock reminding me how slow time was moving. I glanced in the rearview mirror, only sky and trees, no sign of what he was doing. The kids kept watching their show, oblivious, their faces lit by cartoon light. Then came the hollow thump of the trunk closing. A second later, Daniel appeared at my window, his shadow bending low, so our eyes met. His face was calm, but carved with something heavier than fear. "Come out," he said softly. "You need to see this." My legs shook as I stepped onto the gravel. He led me to the back, lifted the hatch again, and pointed at the red duffel bag my parents had pushed into our hands that morning with casual smiles. He didn't speak. He just unzipped it. At first, all I saw was a sweatshirt and a toiletry pouch. But then the truth glared up at me, rows of vacuum-sealed packets, too neat, too uniform, tucked in as if they belonged there. Not vitamins, not protein powder, not anything innocent. My stomach sank heavy and immediate, like I had stepped through the floor of my own life. "They gave this to us," I whispered, my throat dry. "With the kids in the car?" Daniel's jaw tightened. He zipped the bag shut slowly, his hands steady, in a way that frightened me more than panic would have. I knew when we left their driveway. The way they smiled, it was already done. I thought of my mother hugging me that morning, fussing over seatbelts, like danger was always somewhere out on the road. My father patting the roof of the car, his eyes too bright, his voice too cheerful. Vanessa's careless laugh about customs agents being mall cops with better hats. All of it rearranged into something darker now. From the back seat, Liam called out, "Are we stopping for slushies?" His voice was sweet, innocent, and it broke me. I forced a smile that felt brittle on my face. "Not yet, buddy." Daniel looked at me, his expression steady but firm. "We can't go forward." I nodded. The sound of the hatch closing was final, a stamp on everything we'd been pretending not to see. We climbed back into the car, two people leaving a funeral only we had attended. The highway signs blurred past. My phone buzzed on the console, Mom glowing across the screen. I flipped it face down as if that could silence more than the ringtone. The kids sang along to the cartoon credits, their voices bright against the weight in my chest. At a gas station, Daniel leaned across the console. "We take it back," he said. "We leave it in their house, lock the door, walk away." The idea steadied me. I nodded again, this time with more certainty. The children crunched pretzels in the back, their mouths sticky with salt and laughter, unaware of the war we were already fighting for them. Daniel checked the mirrors like the world itself might be tailing us. When we reached my parents' street, I parked a few houses away. The fake rock still hid the spare key, my father's idea of cleverness over real security. We slipped inside, the air heavy with the scent of coffee and furniture polish. A framed photo of Vanessa smiled from the hallway table, smug and perfect. Daniel set the red duffel just inside the entryway. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us touched it again. We left it there like a bomb that didn't need to explode to destroy everything. I locked the door behind us, slid the key back under the fake rock, and walked away with hands trembling. Back in the car, my phone lit up again. "Mom." I let it ring. The kids had started a game, making up silly rhymes about French fries, laughing so hard their neck pillows slipped sideways. I gripped the wheel, staring at the road ahead. For the first time, I let the thought form clearly. If it mattered that much, they should have carried it themselves. That night, the house sat in silence, the kind that doesn't comfort, but accuses. The dishwasher hummed, the dog shifted on the rug, but beneath those familiar sounds was a new weight. I sat on the edge of our bed, phone glowing in my hand with my mother's name across the screen. I waited until the hall outside was quiet, the kids asleep, before I finally answered. "Oh, honey, we were so worried." She began, her tone bright and smooth, the one she used when she wanted a favor to feel like affection. "We're fine." I said, the words clipped flat. "Are you? We thought you'd be here. Then you disappeared. Your father, he was so confused." A pause, deliberate. "Where's the bag?" Her question hit like a stone in my chest. For a long beat, I only listened to my own breath. Then I said, "We left it inside your house. If it mattered that much, you should have carried it yourselves." Her inhale was sharp, like a gasp she hadn't rehearsed. "Melissa," she said, slow and heavy, "I don't know what you think you saw." "You don't need me to think anything," I told her. "You just needed me blind. Don't call again." I hung up before she could turn syrup into claws. My hands shook, and Daniel reached for the phone like it was a fragile piece of evidence we needed to preserve. The next morning, life pretended to be ordinary. I stirred oatmeal, forgot the cinnamon, and forced a smile when the kids argued over the purple bowl. Their chatter was normal, too normal, as if nothing dangerous had brushed past us. Daniel scrolled through the emails at the table, his jaw locked, thumb tapping too fast. We moved through the motions, but the air was brittle, ready to snap. The doorbell rang just after noon. I wiped my hands, stepped outside, and shut the door behind me, making sure the lock caught. My parents stood on the porch like guests invited to a party I'd forgotten. My mother wore her pink sweater, the one she used when she wanted to advertise softness. My father rocked on his heels, hands deep in his jacket pockets. "We wanted to clear the air," my mother said, her smile polished but stiff. "There's nothing to clear," I answered. "We didn't know how much you understood," my father added, his eyes drifting toward the frosted glass where the outline of our staircase blurred. "You put that bag in our trunk," I said, my voice steady with your grandchildren sitting right there. It wasn't going to be anything my mother insisted. Just something to help with the debt. "We're desperate." "You wouldn't help." That excuse again, polished and practiced. But something inside me had shifted. You didn't just betray me, I said. You risked my kids. You risked your own grandchildren. The words landed like stones. My father shifted his weight. My mother blinked as if tears might come, but nothing did. We're done, I said. Don't call. Don't come here. I turned and closed the door, pressing my forehead against the wood until the sound of their footsteps faded. 3 days later, life betrayed me again. I walked into the school office, humming a pop song, already planning dinner. The secretary looked up and smiled, her tone casual. They've already been picked up. Your parents said you asked them to. The world tilted. My hands went cold. Who signed them out? She clicked her screen. Your mother. She's on the emergency contact list. Of course she was. My trust had written their permission slip. I don't remember leaving the office. I remember the roar of the engine, the streetlights blurring past, the kind of speed you use only when you believe something irreplaceable is at stake. Their house looked festive, from the street balloons bobbing from the mailbox. Through the window, I saw a burst of colored toys, candy streamers, a birthday party, for a day no one was born on. Inside, chaos reigned. The kids shrieked with sugar-high joy, clutching brand new toys. My father crouched on the rug, building a tower that beeped. My mother sliced cake sprinkles, spilling like confetti. For a second, I thought I had stepped into a stranger's life. We're leaving, I said. My voice was level, though my chest burned. But Grandma said my daughter began. We're leaving. I gathered jackets, backpacks, whatever I could scoop into my arms. My oldest clutched a toy robot, his face pleading. Can we keep them? I looked at their faces, bright, trusting, unaware of the game being played. Taking the toys would make me the villain. Yes, I said. My mother's smile curved, sharper, satisfied. You don't have to make a scene, she said, voice soft-cutting. They're happy. We're helping. Helping. The word tasted poisonous. On the porch, as I herded the kids out, her voice followed sing-song sweet. They'll come back, she said. They always do. I didn't answer. My hands shook as I buckled seatbelts as I turned the key. The sky was bright, too bright, and all I could think was, this storm's pass, but this wasn't weather. This was who they were. And people like that don't stop. They escalate. That night, the air in our bedroom was sharp, the kind that wakes you even when you're exhausted. I didn't turn on the TV, didn't try to drown it out. Daniel sat hunched on the edge of the bed, elbows braced on his knees, while I curled against the headboard with my knees pulled close, like I was trying to make myself smaller. The silence stretched until it felt alive. They won't stop, Daniel said finally. His voice wasn't angry, just tired, absolute. You know that. I wanted to argue, to pretend a line drawn firmly enough might hold. But the bag in the trunk, the confrontation on the porch, the stunt at school, every sign was already screaming. My throat ached. I can't let them near the kids again. Not at school, not the grocery store. Nowhere. Daniel's nod was deliberate, like a judge delivering a sentence. Then we leave. The simplicity of it stunned me. Families fight. They insult, guilt, make scenes at holidays. But they don't force you to flee states. Leaving meant admitting this wasn't family conflict. It was danger. Still, I heard my mother's voice sing-song, and certain they'll come back. They always do. And I knew Daniel was right. They wouldn't stop. North Carolina, I said the word, tasting foreign but good. Your office has that position. Your parents live there. The kids could have grandparents who care about them, not use them. For the first time all day, Daniel's expression softened. The transfer's still on the table. I'll make the call tomorrow. Do it, I whispered, surprised at how steady I sounded. The decision slipped into place like a puzzle piece I'd been refusing to see. The weeks that followed blurred into lists and boxes. Daniel handled the transfer email's paperwork. I scrolled real estate listings late into the night, circling neighborhoods with safe streets and schools that bragged about book fairs and science nights. We told the kids it was an adventure, a new place where mountains touched the sky. They squealed, bouncing on the couch, shouting over each other about who would get the biggest window. Their joy was a balm, even as guilt gnawed at me for uprooting them. Packing felt like erasing myself. Every box I taped shut, sealed away a piece of history I wasn't sure I wanted. I held my mother's casserole dish, borrowed years ago and never returned, and nearly dropped it in the donation pile. I folded the blanket my father once insisted came from a friend, but I knew had been pawned for cash one bleak Christmas. Each object was evidence of a truth I didn't want to carry forward. I gave away what I could kept, only what felt clean. The phone never stopped buzzing. Sometimes my parents, sometimes Vanessa, sometimes cousins I barely spoke to. The messages cycled between guilt, rage, and pleading. You're overreacting. Family sticks together. You'll regret this. I let them all slide into voicemail. Daniel blocked numbers. I deleted recordings. Every click was another brick in the wall I needed between us. The day we left Ohio, frost clung to the grass. The air tasted sharp, almost metallic. We loaded the SUV until it sagged, yet somehow it felt lighter than the morning it had carried that red duffel. The kids argued about snacks, their voices blissfully ordinary. Daniel's hand brushed mine on the console, a silent reminder together. Neither of us looked back when the house shrank in the mirrors. Some places don't deserve a farewell. The highway stretched south, long and gray. I watched trees blur into streaks of green and gold, and for once, the future didn't feel like a cliff. It felt like a road. I thought about the stories I would one day tell my children, not fairy tales, but truths about survival. About how love can become a leash, about how loyalty without safety is captivity. For now, I filled the car with promises instead, new schools, rivers, mountains, fishing trips with the grandparents who actually knew how to love. As the Ohio border faded, a knot loosened in my chest. Not gone, but lighter, as if I'd shed a layer of skin I no longer needed. Daniel glanced at me, eyes calm for the first time in weeks. We didn't speak, but we both knew this wasn't running away. This was escape. North Carolina didn't give us fireworks or parades. It gave us mornings that smelled of pine and coffee evening where cicadas hummed instead of arguments and skies that felt bigger than anything back home. The townhouse we rented was small, but fresh, the paint still sharp in the air, the carpets unstained by history. For the first time in years, I unpacked boxes without bracing for my phone to buzz with some new demand. The kids adjusted faster than I expected. They made friends on the playground, begged for ice cream at the corner shop, and came home flushed with stories about teachers who celebrated art projects and spelling bees. Daniel settled into his new office, where the biggest problem was printer jams and scheduling softball games. We ate dinner at the table without the heaviness that used to creep in, without waiting for some knock on the door or some guilt-laced call. At night, I lay awake listening, but the quiet was different here. It wasn't brittle, like silence that hides anger. It was soft humming with the rhythm of our own lives. Daniel slept deeper, his face less tense. The children laughed louder, their games unshadowed by moods they couldn't name. Even the dog seemed freer, his paws tapping across new floors, like he'd claimed them as his kingdom. Still sometimes, I caught myself waiting for the other shoe to drop. Trauma trains you, that peace is temporary. I'd reach for my phone in the mornings, half expecting a missed call or a voicemail dripping with obligation. But weeks turned into months, and nothing came except school reminders, work emails, and texts from Daniel's parents about dinner plans. Slowly, I began to trust the quiet, until the email. The subject line screamed in capital letters, "Emergency, please read." It was from Vanessa. My finger hovered over delete, but old habits pulled me in. The message was frantic punctuation. Abandoned. Our parents had been arrested at the border. This time they hadn't used me. They'd stuffed their own trunk full of packets, believing they could flash their smiles and talk their way through inspection. But agents aren't fooled by charm. They were caught, charged, facing years. Vanessa begged. They needed money for lawyers, for bail, for someone to show up. "Family matters," she wrote. "You have to put the past aside." I read the line 3 times. Then I hit reply. I showed up once. I won't again. My hand didn't tremble. The words slid out of me like they'd been waiting their whole lives. Word trickled back through cousins, a plea deal 4 years each. Not forever, but long enough that they'd sit in cells and maybe confront the wreckage they'd created. I didn't celebrate. I didn't mourn. I just breathed. One chilly Saturday, 6 months after the move, I took the kids to the park. The air smelled of damp leaves. They scrambled up a climbing wall fearless, shoving each other playfully, daring themselves to jump. A father standing nearby chuckled. "They've got no fear," he said. I smiled, but knew he was wrong. They did have fear, healthy fear, the kind that teaches you to test the branch before climbing, to look both ways before running into the street. Not the kind I grew up with, not the fear of manipulation disguised as love. That night, as I tucked them in, my youngest asked, "Will Grandma and Grandpa ever visit?" His voice was innocent, casual, the way kids ask about snow in July. I kissed his forehead and said, "Not this time." He nodded, satisfied, and curled up with the stuffed bear we'd bought at a roadside shop on the drive south. That bear smelled faintly of cedar and beginnings. Later in the dark, Daniel turned toward me. "Do you ever wonder if we went too far?" I thought of the red duffel, the trunk heavy with betrayal, my mother's sing-song voice promising, "They'll come back. They always do." I thought of my children safe in their beds, unburdened by secrets. I thought of Daniel finally resting. "No," I said, "not far enough." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full, warm, alive. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, carrying an answer too big for words. I closed my eyes and let it hold me. We hadn't disappeared. We had escaped. And sometimes, the bravest act of love is to stop calling betrayal by the name of family. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these family drama and revenge stories, please subscribe and join me for more every day.